Hamas today handed over 4 dead bodies of Israeli hostages taken on the 7th of October 2023. It's the first time since the truce and exchange process began that dead bodies of hostages have been transferred. This is the penultimate batch of hostage returns in the first phase of the ceasefire. It was the most somber moment of the hostage handover process so far since it began on the 19th of January. Hamas displayed 4 black coffins on a stage in southern Gaza's Han Yunis. They belonged to Shiri Bibas, had 2 young sons, and a 4th captive, 83-year-old or dead Lifshitz. Hamas openly blames Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for their deaths, saying all 3 died in an Israeli attack just a month after they were captured. The coffins were handed over to the Red Cross in Gaza, who transferred them to the Israeli army. Down the last year and more since the 2023 Hamas attack, the Bibas family had become symbols of the suffering of Israeli families who had lost their loved ones to Hamas attackers. Our hearts, says the Israeli President Isaac Herzog on X, lie in tatters. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had spoken yesterday of a sad day for Israel ahead. Looking forward, Hamas will release 6 more living hostages on Saturday, the last batch in this phase of the ceasefire. The first 6-week phase ends on the 1st of March. 58 hostages remain in Hamas captivity. Israel believes 34 of them are dead. Hamas has said it is ready to release all the remaining hostages in a single exchange if the ceasefire agreement with Israel moves forward to a second phase next month, though it has laid down the condition of a complete Israeli exit from Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has signaled his readiness to talk about a second phase. He has appointed close advisor and former ambassador to the United States, Ron Dahmer, to lead the Israeli delegation to the talks. Completion of the second phase would in effect represent the end of the war. There are big hurdles to that remaining though. The far-right wing of Netanyahu's coalition adamantly opposes such a step if it leaves Hamas as a significant force inside Gaza. Chris Doyle is a Director of Council for Arab-British Understanding and the current lead spokesperson for the Council. He's now joining us live from London. Good to see you, Mr. Doyle. In your assessment, how does the road ahead look like now that the first phase truce deal is almost over?
The real dangerous point of this agreement was always going to be the end of the first phase, because we have heard from Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, many of his cabinet colleagues and political allies, that this is the moment that they wish to resume hostilities in Gaza, that they believe that their mission to destroy Hamas has not been completed. Now, I think critics, including myself, would say you cannot destroy an ideology. You can certainly degrade it, which they've already done. Hamas is certainly not the force that it was. But it is a completely unrealistic military aim to say destroy Hamas. The other complicating factor, and it's a very serious one, is the proposal that Donald Trump has given his support to, which is to clean up Gaza, to empty it of its entire population into Jordan, into Egypt, other countries, and then to rebuild it not for the benefit of Palestinians, but actually to be under the control of the United States. The real problem in that is that it actually gives a green light to the Israeli government to go forward, to resume full-scale hostilities, and without any fear that the White House will in any way try to restrain it, so that they can actually reimpose a full-scale siege, not allow aid in, and so forth. So the situation in Gaza is extremely dangerous going forward. It will require the mediators, it will require other international actors to put real pressure on to say that phase 2 and phase 3 of this deal must go forward.
Mr. Doyle, how do you foresee the remaining 2 phases, like you mentioned there, will look like, bearing in mind Hamas has stated that they will release all the 58 hostages in their custody at a go, if Israel vows to end the war completely, even though some of Netanyahu's cabinet members are not willing to oblige?
I very much doubt at this stage Israel is going to agree to a full withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. I do not see this as happening. It has been a consistent position of the Israeli government that Hamas, and indeed the Palestinian Authority in Ramallah, cannot be the authority within Gaza. So that is one obstacle. I don't think they want to leave Gaza. I think there are those in the Israeli cabinet who actually want to take territory in Gaza, if not all of it, for the purposes of Israeli settlement. So I think this is going to be mightily challenging. One of the reasons we're not seeing the full-scale hostilities, and I say that because even during this period of the deal, even over the last 5 weeks since the 19th of January, we have seen actually a lot of Israeli killing of Palestinians, well over 100. So it's not been quiet. I think we will see less pressure on Netanyahu to keep the deal open when more and more hostages, when more and more bodies, and obviously bodies have been transferred to Israel today, once they are released, then there will be less domestic pressure to hold him back. I think that domestic pressure at the moment means that Netanyahu has to try to go further down the path of this deal, because if there is any chance that he can get more hostages out alive, get some more bodies out, as gruesome as all of this is, then he will do so. I think also, as we're looking at screens of images of all of this, it should be said that both sides have failed to, in a very appalling fashion, to actually treat hostages, detainees and prisoners in a respectful and dignified fashion. You should not be making a show, as Hamas are doing, of these bodies right now. The way in which also Israel has released prisoners, where they ban celebrations, is also not dignified, and they have to do better than that. I think we need real pressure to keep this going right to the end, to reconstruction, which will be a moment, where perhaps Palestinians in Gaza can see light at the end of the tunnel.
Mr. Chris Doyle, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for talking to us today.
Pleasure.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.